I have a waveform and it looks nice and fat.
I also have a waveform. Oh, it's really
You
big.
got a nice waveform. It's huge.
Look at
I
that.
have a waveform. Hello.
Okay, cool.
Surf it.
Welcome to the SyrupCast, MobileSyrup's Canadian tech-focused podcast. I'm Patrick O'Rourke, and Brad Bennett, a man who refers to himself as the bad boy of tech, is once again across the internet from me at an undisclosed location. How are you doing, Brad?
Well, I went to bed in my own bed in my own home, but I woke up in some sort of snow-covered hellscape. I'm not sure where I am, to be completely honest. More north than where I went to sleep.
I was looking at the window this morning, and you know when you're playing like a video game that has seasons,
Yeah,
and like the seasons are changing, and there's still like a little bit of snow on the ground, but it's all melting and stuff? That's what it looked like out my window.
yeah. There was like 4 inches of snow on the ground. Like I don't even think I'm exaggerating. Like it was nuts. Like
I hate it.
I woke up
covered,
and
Yeah,
I was
there's a bunch of
shook.
snow out here too. It's ridiculous.
Pretty sure all my plants are
That
dead too.
Yeah, I'll talk about my plants in one second, but
Okay.
that was the voice of John Lamont. He is also joining us on the podcast today. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty great, other than just the awful cold grossness. I literally was talking with my wife last night, and I made a joke about the standard end of April blizzard, and then I woke up this morning with snow,
Oh,
and
so
I
this is
was
your
like,
fault.
why did I? It's
Yeah,
my
it's you.
fault. Yeah,
You
I
did
jinxed
this.
us.
Jeez.
I brought
Wow.
this upon us.
That's brutal. That is
So,
brutal.
Bennett, you were saying that you planted something?
Yeah, so Alex and I like just moved to this new apartment this year, so we now have a backyard. So we were like had some plants in a garden we were starting, and we had moved most of our indoor plants to like planters outside so they could get more sun and water. Um, like literally like last week, and then I just like woke up and they're all just covered in snow. Alex brought them back inside, but I think that they're probably not going to last. Who knows? What about you? I know you've been working on a garden as well.
So, I planted strawberries on the weekend, and I also planted like a baby peach tree.
Like already
So, I'm
grown,
expecting the peach tree to. Yeah, it's already grown. Like, I didn't
okay,
plant
yeah,
it by seed
like a
or whatever.
transplant, yeah.
It's probably like 3 feet tall or something. I'm
Cool.
expecting it to like. I'm hoping it'll make it because this is only like a couple days of snow, and then it's gonna be like 16 by Friday or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I did cover my strawberry plants that I also planted with like that landscaping material,
Yeah,
just to
that's
try to
smart.
like. Yeah, so I don't know, but this isn't a gardening podcast. Unfortunately, that would be pretty cool. Would love
Yeah,
to talk about gardening for an hour. That'd be awesome. On this
I'd be
week's
down.
episode, we're going to be talking about Apple's surprisingly packed spring loaded event. I guess it's sort of surprising. We sort of knew that some of this stuff was going to show up, but I don't think, at least I didn't have the big picture of all of the products. So we're going to talk about AirTags, the new iPad Pro, the new Apple TV, the Refresh podcast app, the cool looking iMac that some people love and some people hate, and of course the biggest announcement from the event, the purple iPhone 12, which is obviously like the killer device that Apple's releasing this spring.
All those reports of the iPhone 12 mini not selling very well. About to change, people. About to
Oh,
change.
I wonder if that was the reason, right? Like
I
to
don't
try
know.
to
It was
boost
the
Yeah,
whole
sales, release a
plan.
purple.
that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
thinking, right? Because like Apple never just like drops colors like this, right? Like when has this ever happened before?
Not as long as I've covered Apple's, as far as I
Yeah.
can
Well,
think of. I'm sure there has to have been at
I
some
think they
point that
used
happened,
to
but
release the product red variants, like a little bit
oh yeah, product
delayed.
red.
Like I think there was a couple times when that wasn't available with the first set, and then later on they would release the product red
Okay.
color.
That makes sense. But yeah, not quite like this though. This is like just out of nowhere. They were like, "Oh, we forgot about this last iPhone event," and then just like pulled his iPhone. Like, "Hey, it's a purple iPhone. Get
Yeah,
one."
there's a surprising amount of coverage for it at the event for a phone they've already announced.
I think it was the most
I went
popular
to a
story on our
briefing
site
about it.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people were really into that purple iPhone.
Yeah, so crazy stuff.
All right, but before we get to all the Apple stuff, Bennett, hit us with the hottest news of the week.
So I'm not gonna be able to edit the audio into this one, so I'm just gonna sing it.
Okay, do it.
So the first one, and I'm sure anyone that was affected by this already knows, but there was a huge like nationwide Rogers outage earlier this week. It was caused by an update to an Ericsson hardware software situation somewhere that
Yep.
basically like crashed their network. And it's back up now. So Rogers, Fido, Chatter, people are back up now. But Rogers came out yesterday and announced that they would be giving a bill credit to those people affected. Our theory is that people will probably be getting like $3 to $4
Big
probably back.
bucks.
Yeah, but
What a generous carrier.
it was nice to see Rogers like at least honestly when this went down, I didn't even expect them to like tell us what happened. So I was surprised that they even like shared the blog post by that like George guy, and then the fact that they're giving a bill credit also surprised me. So
So
not gonna please people, but surprising. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I knew 100% that they were gonna have to explain it because this is like one of the longest outages that I've seen in years.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think that they were gonna do the bill credit thing. I thought they were just gonna pretend that that wasn't a possibility. And I mean, to their credit, they did. A few bucks is a few bucks. Like whatever. That's good to see that they're acknowledging it in some sense. I think my takeaway from it was that if you read that post, it's essentially just a press release of Rogers explaining what happened. In a way, they're not taking any responsibility for the problems and they're just blaming it on an Ericsson software update. It's not like we bought this Ericsson carrier telecom equipment and it is ours and there was an issue with it. It's like it was all Ericsson's fault. That was like sort of how it read to me anyways.
What's funny there too is like if you have an Android phone, the updates have to be approved by Rogers. As far as I'm aware, has that changed, John? Do you know?
No, I think that's still kind of the case.
Yeah.
It sort of depends on the phone, and there's a whole bunch of details. So, like, I think that doesn't really apply to Pixel phones, but like Samsung phones and stuff like that, that typically have more carrier promotion. There's a bit of a carrier angle there where the carriers work with manufacturers to make sure that updates don't impact anything. But that's like software on the phone. It's a little bit
But
different
that's what I mean.
than the Ericsson
They go
stuff.
through all those hoops to do that on a phone software, and it seems like they did not do that on their network software, which is arguably way more important, I would say.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going with that one. But anyway, if you're a Rogers customer, you're pissed. Sorry, that's happens to all of us. Maybe next year it'll be Bell. Maybe next year it'll be Telus, but these things happen. Moving on to some more exciting news. Yeah, well, there's a Twitter account called Vaccine Hunters. I'm hoping that everybody kind of knows about it now, but I just wanted to shout it out again. Like it is a huge resource if you're looking to get a vaccine, especially if you live in a hotspot anywhere in the country. And they're basically just tweeting like all day, constantly, like, "Hey, these appointments are open. These appointments are open if you're this age, in this hotspot, in this postal code." And if you're looking to get a vaccine and you're like, "I am lost because the regulations are changing and the rules are changing and I'm not good at the internet," follow Vaccine Hunters. It is at Vax Hunters Can. So VAXHUNTERSCAN. And they've got, I would say, as far as I can tell, they seem to be the best resource on finding vaccines for COVID.
It is 100%.
Yeah. So
they've
definitely
like grown. The account's grown over the course of like just a couple days too. Like it's massive now.
Yeah, I think over the weekend it was starting to get a lot more coverage and it just started popping off.
Yeah, we're hoping to do a more in-depth feature on the Twitter account and sort of the people behind it. That's in the process right now, so hopefully that appears in the next couple of weeks on the site.
Sweet. I'm just hoping to get vaxxed.
It'd be sweet. It would be nice.
I know. This whole time I was like, okay, I'm a young person. I work from home. I am in a like I'm downtown, but like I'm probably going to be at the end of the list. But now I'm kind of hoping that I'll be able to like find a way to get vaxxed before the summer ends. But we'll see.
I should get one next week.
Oh, really? Congrats. That's exciting.
Yeah, I should.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes, but I should be getting one next week. I have an appointment.
Nice. Super sick. And then the last sort of news, kind of just a little promotion for the site, but we have our Mother's Day gift guide up. There's some pretty cool things in there, lots of tech, speakers, smartwatches. There's this cool like lamp that I kind of found from this website called Fully that I'm a big fan of.
Sick.
I know it's really expensive, but very cool. But yeah, just be aware, Mother's Day coming up May 9th. And if your mom's a techie, we have a pretty cool gift guide for that. And if she's not, just May 9th coming up, get some flowers, be nice to your mom. That's all I got for news this week. The biggest one was the Rogers outage, really. And yeah, I just want to talk about Apple stuff now.
Cool. Let's hit the Apple stuff. So there's a ton of stuff shown off. I really didn't think there was going to be this many new products. I thought like maybe the AirTags wouldn't be there, maybe the iMac wouldn't be there, but but Apple like thankfully confirmed all of the rumors that I've been writing for, well, we all have been writing for months and months. I'm going to talk about the few things that I covered at the event, and then we'll go down and each of us will sort of talk about the different stories that we wrote. But first, I want to talk about the most important announcement, the gorgeous purple iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 mini. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a weird name for a color. Of course, Apple couldn't just call it purple. It's got to be
What?
called gorgeous purple.
Really?
Yeah.
Usually they're
Yeah.
so straightforward with their color names. Like Apple is the one company that's just like blue, pink, red.
Depends on
or
what it is.
product
There's
red.
like every once in a while there's like a color that's like a little wacky named.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess I'm not
I would
super
say-
surprised, but I didn't know it was called gorgeous purple. Wow.
But I think you're right, yeah.
I would say Apple's not really that straightforward. Like they always do like space gray and stuff like that, which isn't that fancy, but it's like kind of fancy.
At least they
Right.
don't change it every year like Samsung. It's like mystic black, aqua black, like it's black with 3 different colors of a rainbow inside of it. Or a hue.
Definitely true. As far as phone manufacturers go, I think Google with the Pixel is the only one that's really like simple. Like their phone colors are just black.
Oh, totally.
No, but that's like kind of confusing because the name is just black. It's not black. Like it's not, the name isn't black. It's just black. Like what is that? It's kind of
Yeah.
funny and kind of, it's like overreaching for simplicity. Like just call it black. Everyone calls it black.
I think they're just trying to like they're just trying to make fun of, you know, Apple and Samsung for having the fancy color names. Like that's, which I get,
fair, I
but
guess.
just,
I do
just
like
call
that.
it black. That's what it is, you know?
Yep.
My
Definitely.
takeaway was like, this is a nice looking color for a phone that I already really like.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all that I really have to say about it. Like, I think it's available for pre-order Friday, April 23rd, and then it's supposed to start.
Comes out on the
shipping
30th
On the 30th, yeah.
with
the 30th,
iOS
and it
14.5.
costs. You think it comes with it, or no? You know that.
No,
was from
it
your
definitely
story
comes with
yesterday, right?
iOS
Yeah, it does,
14.5.
okay.
We just don't know if iOS 14.5 is coming to the rest of Apple devices on
Got
the
it.
30th. My theory is May 1st because the new podcasting app is coming out in May with iOS 14.5. iOS 14.5 and the fine print of other Apple press releases says it's coming out next week. If it's next week and in May, it has to be, or not the 30th, the 1st, which is Saturday. But then again on a Saturday.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I don't know. It's a little lost, but definitely seems to be coming very quickly. Sorry, little side note there.
I guess the only thing to unpack about this is like, why now? Why release a purple device halfway through a product's like initial life cycle? Obviously, they're going to keep selling the iPhone 12 after the iPhone 13 or whatever it's going to be called comes out. But like, this is the first time that I can think of, other than like John, you mentioned this off the podcast, the product red devices, where Apple has dropped a color mid-cycle, which I think is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, why? Is it to try to sell the iPhone mini more? Is that the point?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably to help perk up sales a little bit, and I think it might also be almost a preemptive move with the chip shortage. There could be some issues with supply with iPhones when the iPhone 13 comes out. So if there's this really nice iPhone 12 color, then some people might be willing to go for the older model with the nice color rather than
Good
get
point.
the brand new iPhone 13. So it could help alleviate stock issues and give people another option. I think it's probably just to sell more iPhones. Like that's probably the main goal.
Yeah, the only other theory that I was kind of throwing around, but I don't even really believe, is like maybe they were always planning to do a purple one, but they just like fumbled the ball on it before the release of iPhone 12 or something. And that one's a little more skeptical because it's not like it's a different anything other than color, but I don't know.
The purple got lost. Like they had the purple color. It was being shipped to Apple HQ and it just got lost in the mail for 6 months.
Yeah, it was stuck in the Suez Canal.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
no.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's enough about the purple iPhone. The next one that we're going to talk about was like 100% my favorite announcement from the event because I'm a big fan of the Apple TV. I literally have used it for years as like my main streaming device. So this is an upgraded version of the current Apple TV 4K in the sense that like it still looks like the same black box. Nothing's changed about the design of the device itself. It just has an A12 Bionic chip and a brand new remote that's been fully redesigned. It's like got squared off edges, different buttons, but most importantly, actually a directional pad. that you don't have to swipe around on. But from the sounds of like the press release, you can swipe on it if you want to, but you
Yep.
can also use it as like a regular directional pad. So it's kind
And
of
as
like
a
the
click
best of
wheel.
both worlds. Yeah, a click wheel. Yeah, this is great. I think this is long overdue. In a sense, this is Apple listening to years of complaints about the Siri remote. Bennett, I know you don't hate the Siri remote. You like it. You have like this interesting, well, maybe not like it, but you have like this interesting opinion on it. Do you want to just explain that?
There are instances where it can be faster for sure. I think
Don't
I
you
think where
all?
it really gets down to it is like if you're you can like once you get it dialed, like once you use it a lot and you get it dialed
Okay.
in, like you can really like flow through the menus. I find very quickly, as opposed to like click 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 click. Like if you're typing something in that like line of text or like a square box of text that's where anywhere on a TV, it's like pretty quick to be swiping through. It's almost like swipe texting on an Android phone or an iPhone. I guess now they have it, but yeah, it's not the greatest. It was a little small for my liking, but the new one's cool. I like the click wheel coming back. I hope that it has that sort of tactile, like tick, 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 tick feeling as you go around, like from the old iPods.
Like an
Um,
old school iPod?
yeah, I hope so. And the other thing I like is it's actually kind of a combination of like the first gen Apple TV remote and the Siri remote in like design. It's aesthetic. Like it basically looks like
That's true.
the that while the Siri remote was in the spotlight, the old Apple TV remote was in the back, just like pumping iron. Like I'm coming back, baby. Like I'm getting jacked up. I'm getting huge. Like don't worry about it. I'm coming back. And now it's like twice the size of it was with that old Apple TV. If you remember the first gen Apple TVs, if you guys ever had one of those,
Yeah.
but that's still same like stainless steel and black button design. So I think that was kind of cool.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention here is like, so the Apple TV HD, which is the non 4K capable model, will also now get the new Siri remote, and the Siri remote's being sold separately for what is it, like $69? Which
Yeah.
there's a bunch of
Nice.
stories yesterday I saw from like Android blogs saying that like that's more than like an Amazon streaming stick, or
More
yeah,
than the
which is
Chromecast.
hilarious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
And then there's,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say there are pluses.
No, you go ahead.
It's more metal. It's got like lots of glass involved. The Apple TV has, I would argue, like maybe a more straightforward like design, and those wallpapers so nice, or the screensavers, not wallpapers.
I like it. I've always found it the best streaming platform and device, but it's also expensive, right? Like that's the one
Yeah.
thing that's hard to defend. Like the new Apple TV costs $229. That's a ton of money for a streaming device.
But how
So
long
it
have you
would have
had
been
it
cool
for
if Apple
too?
dropped the price.
Yeah, that's true.
I've had it forever, like more than
Same.
4 years at this point.
Yeah, I'm still using my Apple
Yeah.
TV
So like
HD.
it's definitely an investment. But I kind of fall more on the side of, I look at the Apple TV and I'm like, yeah, it's nice, but it's a lot of money to do something that's like, I don't know, I can get from so many other places for significantly less cost. Like
Well,
even just
it's like
the
built
Roku
into
TV
every
I have, it
TV.
has like enough basic streaming
Yep.
apps and services that I don't need anything. Like I have a Chromecast, but I almost never use it because the Roku TV does pretty much everything else, and I haven't had to pay any extra money to get any of that stuff other than just the subscriptions. So
I believe your TV model also has AirPlay and HomeKit support now too, but I could be wrong. Mine does.
Depends on the
possibly.
Roku TV.
I think they're rolling it
The
out to all Roku devices now, so all
are
of them
they?
should have it at some point, depending on how old they are. But John's is only like 2 years old, so it should get it.
The one thing that I would say about the Apple TV's like app ecosystem is that when a new, like not even just when a new streaming service launches, like the world that we live in Canada with streaming platforms is very different than the States as well as the rest of the world. And when those apps come to Canada or when a new app is released, often the best version of that app comes to the Apple TV first. Not always, but that's often the case. So that's one of the advantages it has. But the only other thing before we move on that I wanted to mention about this that is really weird is I saw reporting yesterday that it features HDMI 2.1, which is required for 120 hertz
4K,
video, which isn't a thing
120
anybody should
hertz,
care about.
4K specifically.
Yeah, 4K specifically. Yeah, good point. But also gaming, right? And Apple didn't make any announcements about 120 hertz gaming on the Apple TV 4K. The new one. I know that like the Apple TV 4K isn't a gaming platform, but it has games on it. Apple
Totally a
really
gaming
wants it to be
platform. Everyone's got an Apple Arcade subscription. Everyone's got a MiFi compatible controller. I know you can do every controller now, but yeah, I'm just
before
kidding.
you couldn't.
Yeah, I
There's,
know. I know.
like I wrote a story like 5 years ago at this point where like I genuinely thought that the Apple TV 4K could become a viable gaming platform. There's like potential there. It could have been like I think I argued I'd have to read it again, but it was like I argued it as having the potential of being like the Wii of this generation of consoles. This is like 5 years ago when it first came out. That didn't happen. Not going to happen. It's cool that you can play games on it. I know people out there that do. It's just weird that it has HDMI 2.1 and there was no announcement regarding 120 hertz support. I think that that's something that's coming probably at WWDC 2021 in 2 months and tvOS 15. Like that's a thing that they're going to add to it. Apple wouldn't add that feature to it. I know that that's also required for some of the other frame rate and HDR stuff they're doing, but I just think that that's coming. They just haven't revealed it yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a larger push at WWDC towards 120 hertz, since there's clearly like the hardware aspect with the Apple TV 4K, and rumors are iPhone 13 will have at least 120 hertz display option in
Yeah,
the
the Pro
myriad
ones.
of different configurations it'll come in. So yeah, hopefully we see something at WWDC, maybe a software push to bring more games to Apple TV. There will be something. There has to be.
Yeah, it's definitely just like hedging your bets. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you've had your Apple TV 4K for years. So, if you buy one now and you want to like say game streaming finally comes to like Apple's platforms in a cohesive like app-based way, then the Apple TV will be ready for 120 hertz 4K game streaming if that happens anytime in the next like 4 or 5 years. The one
On
thing
a
before we
side
move on,
note, go
so
ahead.
I want to talk about the color correction thing. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Man, that is amazing. Like that is like for someone who like reviews TVs and is like always tweaking TV settings to like try to get it to be as good as possible. The fact that like you can
Explain what it
now
is though, right?
right. So TVs come in all different like color spaces. You probably don't notice because you only have one TV and you look at it, so that's normal to you. But if you go to your friend's house, it might look a little different because it's a little bit of a different TV, for better or for worse. The new Apple TV, and I'm hoping that this comes to older Apple TVs via an update, will essentially play this like dot matrix on the screen, and then you'll take your iPhone, scan it with the front facing camera. It'll like flash some colors and stuff, and then it will use like the chips and learning on the devices to essentially color correct your TV to be as standardized as possible, so that anyone with an Apple TV, if they set it up this way, should be getting like the best color performance or the most like, accurate color performance they can out of their TV plus the Apple TV, which is sweet.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
It's like
that is really neat.
That's something that you pay like tons of money for from some sort of professional service that who
you
knows
buy,
if it'll
like,
be as good, but you can now do like in your home.
It kind of reminds me of like Sonos, just like True Play, where you like
That's true.
set it to like it goes bling 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 bling, bling. It's like making sounds. You just like walk around your room with an iPhone, like sort of mapping out your space so it can tweak the sound to sound better in your space. But now this is kind of
really
like
cool
on the screen. Yeah, I thought it was really cool and really smart. I expect more companies to probably make their own versions of it shortly, or the next few years, I guess.
Cool. So the other device that I'm going to talk about are the AirTags. I'm so tired of writing rumors of AirTags. I think I talked about that last week on the podcast. Been doing it for like 3 years at this point. The things like even showed up in an Apple support video like 2 years ago. So I was like hyped that they're finally revealed. Kind of somewhat lackluster because we already knew everything about them. They're a Bluetooth tracking device. Like that's it. That's what they are. But what's special about them is they leverage Apple's Find My network, which features billions of devices. Other Bluetooth tracking companies like Tile also have their own crowdsourced networks. But because this device uses Find My, it already has this built-in library of like a bazillion devices. So as long as it works,
iPads, Macs.
Yeah, iPhones, iPads, Macs, everything. So as long as it works the way that Apple says it will likely be one of the better trackers out there. That said, there's also some other interesting stuff. Like it has a built-in U1 chip that allows iPhones that also have that technology to more closely pinpoint the location of the AirTag.
By
What
more
else is there
closely
to...
pinpoint too, it's like if the AirTag is to
It
your
shows
left,
an
it will
arrow.
point
Yeah,
directly to
exactly.
it. Like, and I think that's iPhone 11s and newer that have U1 chips or U1 bands,
Yeah,
if I'm correct.
I believe the Apple Watch Series 6 has it too, so that's
Oh,
only
okay.
only three, not three devices, like three series of devices that have it. But that's cool too. That's kind of like next generation Bluetooth finding your device stuff. I've used Tiles products for years. I love them. I think they're really
Mhm.
cool. Have one in my wallet, have one in my bag. When I traveled a lot, I had one in my suitcase. I lose my
Smart.
wallet all the time. I lose my phone all the time in my house. I would use them like
The
in,
reverse tracking to get your phone to ring is
exactly.
really smart. Yeah.
I did it like
Um,
almost every day in the morning, like back when we used to go to an office. I couldn't find my
yeah.
phone or my wallet when I'm trying to get out the door, and I would use the reverse tracking to find it. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about this.
Apparently, you can tap your iPhone to one. If you find like someone else's, you can tap your iPhone to it, and it will show you like this belongs to Brad Bennett, and you can
Oh,
call him here to
really?
let him know you. Yeah, apparently you can set that up.
I
That's
That
cool.
was in an MKBHD video, so it's not from Apple, but I saw
I
that. I
read that
assume
that
it's right.
NFC feature. I read that that NFC feature also works with Android devices. So if you find an AirTag and you
Ah,
tap it with your Android
Oh,
phone,
that's
you'll
cool.
also be able to get that information, which is pretty neat.
that's
I'm
cool.
surprised that Apple added something like that in, but it's really good because like not everybody has iPhones, and that was kind of, for me at least, one of the weaknesses I saw with the platform is, you know, in North America, like there's a pretty high amount or a pretty large amount of people who use iPhones and Apple products, so it's probably not an issue. But in some places, you know, the vast majority of people use Android phones, and iPhones are such a small percentage that I find it difficult to believe the Find My network will work as well as something like Tile, which
Hmm.
is cross-platform and works with so many different devices.
The other thing to note about Tile too is that they offer different form factors, right? Like I have a
Mm-hmm.
Tile wallet, I think it's called, and
The
it's
wallet
like a
one is the
card.
coolest one.
It slides into your wallet. Then there's also like little sticky tiles. I have one attached to my bike. So it's not like I'm going to stop using Tile. I think for me, like Apple has this history of taking established products for better or worse and usually doing something better with them. So for me, I'm curious if that's actually true this time. Like, is the U1 chip worth it? Does the device work better? Does it really have year-long battery life? Can I actually just use any, not any watch battery, but the specific watch battery with it when the battery dies? Or like, are those things that the things that Apple has promised about it true?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last thing I want to mention is that if you're an Hermes fan, if you're a fan of
Oh,
fine
yeah.
handcrafted leather goods, um, so Apple has like Hermes watch bands that they've been making
Oh
for
my
years, and
God.
Hermes is like a luxury leather bag watch band company,
You're
I guess.
pointing to it on your wrist right now, right? Like that's an
No,
Hermes
no, this is
Apple
just an
Watch
Apple
strap.
one. I don't have the Hermes money, not yet. But yeah, there's like an Hermes AirTags. There's three of them, and they come with an Hermes like leather keychain. There's three different keychains, and they go from like $300 to $500, I think, if I remember correctly. And they come the or the AirTag that comes with it doesn't have like an Apple logo. It has like an Hermes logo etched into it. So you do get a free Apple or AirTag with the Hermes ones, which I kind of thought was funny. But then again, I'm not sure who's spending like $500 on this little
Small
product.
price to pay to let everybody know how much of a baller you are.
Yeah, except like it's a tiny
Yep.
device that's almost unnoticeable. So I don't know if people are even gonna. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
exactly.
Crazy, but yeah, it's
All of
hilarious.
those.
More expensive than an iPad.
Sometimes when you're at like when we would be at like or when I would be at Apple events, you'd see like a tech reporter dude who quite obviously like Hermes sent him the new strap that has like two straps built into one,
The
and he'd be like
Dublator.
at this Apple event. Yeah, is that what it's called?
I think so. Yeah, it's like a classic Hermes strap. It's not even an
And he would
Apple
have
one. It's like they had it before in their watches. It's a long,
and he would
storied
have that
history.
like someone would have that on and like it was just always so funny.
Mm. Yeah, it's
So
bit
pricing
overdone.
wise, the AirTag costs $39 for one, and a pack of four costs $129, and they're available to order in Canada starting April 23rd. What's the next device that we're gonna talk about? I guess John, do you want to talk about the iMac?
I do.
Yeah, I can jump into that part. Bennett's ready.
He's hyped.
So yeah, that was probably one of the bigger announcements at the event yesterday. They released the new iMacs. These have been rumored for a while. that they would return to, the kind of colorful variant with all different kinds of colors and not just silver and gray. That it would be a thinner, kind of more boxed off look like the Pro Display XDR. So I think we got exactly what had been rumored. New M1 chip and all that jazz. So I think on the M1 side, like that was pretty expected, and I'm really interested to see what performance is like in this compared to some of the other M1 devices that have already come out, like the MacBook. And I think the part of the announcement that was the most interesting to me was when they showed that breakdown of the logic board and thermal system of the old Intel iMacs compared to the one in the new
That was cool.
M1 MacBooks and the M1 Mac,
So small.
the M1 iMac. And the new one, yeah, it looks like the same logic board that you would find in a MacBook. Like it was just super small, had two tiny fans.
I think it is,
but is supposedly so much more powerful. So yeah, I just found that really interesting, and I can't wait to see the reviews that come out to see how well the M1 actually does stack up in the iMac compared to, a full-on Intel desktop chip. I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to see, because with the whole M1 versus Intel thing, there's kind of been some thought that Intel's still going to be okay on the desktop side, but if the M1 is really that powerful that it can take on Intel in the desktop space, then it's going to spell trouble for them. But yeah,
I have no
your
doubt
thoughts?
that it will.
Yeah.
Bennett, what were your thoughts?
I was just going to say, like when John was talking about the small logic board, the people that keep complaining, like, oh, they still have the chin on the iMacs. That chin on the iMacs is like all the computer parts. Like the whole iMac
Yeah.
is just screen, and the chin, like the tiny chin, which you're like, that's a huge chin,
Yeah.
but that chin is really small. That's the computer tower. Like my giant computer tower down here fits into the chin on an iMac. And the iMacs took my Apple Watch off for this. They're like 11 millimeters thin, which in the pictures, I don't think it comes across, but it's about this thin, like the screen, like a thin, it's 1 millimeter thicker than an Apple Watch, which is nuts. Like, I mean, is it necessary? Probably not, but very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm hyped. Like I had two takeaways. Like I think the fact that they're going back to colors, super cool. Makes them stand out from other devices, even though they already kind of did, like PC all-in-ones, Windows 10 all-in-ones.
Mm-hmm.
The design, undeniably sick. Like I really like it. I was kind of surprised that there's a lot of people out there that weren't fond of it, and that a lot of the complaints were about the chin, that's where the computer is. Like, where do you want them to put it?
I guess people want it on the back, but like, and I guess that kind of makes sense because you wouldn't necessarily see the back. Like they could have had like a little like bop out in the middle and just like put it back there, but I don't know. The chin is cool, and I guess we should say also the speakers are in there, and I think that's like important for the speaker placement to be in the chin because it like actually then faces towards you. But still, yeah, people are very split on the design. I think people either love it or hate it, and there doesn't seem to be very many people in the middle.
The yellow
Where
one.
do you guys fall?
I would say that I would say I fall in the middle with the design. Like I think it looks nice, and I think it'll probably look significantly nicer in person. I'm not a huge fan of the chin, but I recognize that it's important to have that for putting the computer parts in. But I just think it kind of looks weird as it is now. Like iMacs in the past have had the Apple logo on the chin, which like it gives some sort of visual thing on the chin to look at, and these ones it just looks weird having nothing on the chin except for the color. And also I think the white bezels look kind of weird. It would have been interesting to see.
I'm wondering how those will stand up.
Yeah, I would have loved to see a more rounded corner design like what you get on the iPhones or on the iPad, and just like an edge to edge affair. Like that would have been a lot nicer, I think. But all that said, I also think that the iMac's impressive.
I think the bezels are going to look better in person. I feel you on that. Too. Like I agree, but I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, the cheese grater Mac Pro that everyone is freaking out about. I know that like not everyone's seen that in person, but it still looks weird in person, but it doesn't look quite as weird, if that makes sense. Like, there's just something about like actually having it in front of you that made that far too expensive computer look better than I think a lot of people are making it out to be, just based on the photos. That was like my impression from like a year ago, whenever that was revealed. And I think that might happen with this too. Like a lot of the people that
Yeah.
aren't fond of the design, they're going to walk into an Apple store just on a whim when we can walk into stores again, and they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, okay, the photos didn't really do this justice. It does look crazy thin. Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
people
know.
aren't taking in how thin it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor. And when I look at the side profile pictures, like to me, it almost looks like a side profile of an iPad Pro in that like smart keyboard, right? Like it's
Yeah,
very
that's true.
similar. The other thing I find, like I look at it and I feel like it's going to tip over. Like it doesn't look sturdy, but I
It
can't
does,
imagine
yeah.
that that's going to be the case, in real
I'm
Some
life.
imagining
crazy
the base is
balancing.
going to be much heavier.
Yeah, like I just can't picture Apple putting out this fancy iMac and then people get it and it starts falling over because it's just not stable. Like that, there's no way that Apple
I
would do
wouldn't worry
that.
about that.
So I'm
Like
not
they've
concerned
had
about
that. The
it.
base has been that for years, basically.
Yeah. So it's
Like all
just
the
one of
old
those things.
iMacs basically had the same base.
Mhm. I just think it looks kind of weird in photos, and it's one of those things where once you get to see it in real life, it's gonna it's gonna look a lot better, and it's gonna look probably more iMac-ish than what it does now.
There's some other one thing I just wanted to note first off before I get into the other thing was just like it's very disappointing there's no SD card slot. I
Yeah.
truly thought that Apple was going to listen to people and keep that around, especially because rumors indicated that it's coming to the new MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
With the M1. Now I don't think it's coming to the MacBook Pro either. Like I think that they're just not going to put an SD card slot in a device again, which is disappointing because as someone who takes a lot of pictures, that's the easiest way to get photos off a camera. Like they can tell me in briefings and stuff all the time that people use Bluetooth or like USB-C, but no, people use SD cards. That's just the nature of the industry. So there's that. And then the other thing that I thought was kind of cool is the like single braided cord that comes off the back of it. And then on top of that, the other thing that I think is really, really cool is the Ethernet cable inside the power brick. I know that
Yeah.
that's not new. We've seen that from like you
Chromecast
can buy power
Ultra.
bricks that have that. Like that's a thing that exists. I saw a
Mhm.
bunch of people talking about it on Twitter, but it's a neat idea. It's like a forward thinking thing, very, very Apple-esque, right? And it's a minor thing. It doesn't really matter, but it could also help some people with cable management or with Ethernet cord management. Yeah, those are the only other two
Yeah.
things I wanted to say about
One
it.
thing to mention about that is not all of the Macs come with that. The base level one
Interesting.
doesn't
Okay.
come with the Ethernet adapter, and it only comes with two Thunderbolt ports. It doesn't have 4 USB-Cs. It just has the 2 Thunderbolts. And it doesn't come in all the
Ooh.
colors either, which is weird.
You did
Yeah.
a story about that, John, didn't you, today?
I haven't written about the colors yet. I think it was assigned to me, but I'm here recording the podcast instead.
You have to do both at the
So,
same
but yeah,
time.
no, the colors are different. And the USB port thing is frustrating because I feel like on any desktop computer, 2 USB-C ports is not enough. I would say
No,
that
it's not.
4 USB-C ports is also not enough, but at least with that you can get by. I saw on Twitter people were talking about it's probably only a matter of weeks before we see some Kickstarter project that's a dongle adapter thing, but it like plugs into the back and
Like a
hooks down,
claw
so
that,
you
like,
have
comes
front-facing
around.
ports below the
Yep.
bottom of the monitor or something like that. So that's probably coming. The other thing is, and Apple didn't really say anything about this during the event, but the new iMacs support Wi-Fi 6. So yeah,
Oh,
it's nice that
interesting.
you can do the Ethernet, but also I feel like if you have a nice Wi-Fi 6 router, you probably won't super need Ethernet. Wi-Fi 6 is surprisingly good. That's currently what I'm using with my desktop PC, and it's been fine for gaming and stuff like that while I use it. I prefer wired still, but Wi-Fi 6 is fine.
I think the people that really need wired would be like hardcore creatives. Like anyone working off like a central local server would probably want to be like wired into that as opposed to doing it wirelessly. But then again,
Yeah.
those people probably aren't buying the base level iMac anyway.
Well, there's a lot of people that tweeted me yesterday that like work in video editing that are waiting for like the upgraded version of this, the new like iMac Pro or whatever. They're
Yeah.
like, this is sick, looks great, doesn't have the power
Doesn't
I
have the screen
need or
size.
that I want for my purposes. Yeah, the screen size is another thing too, because this is only
24.
This is the 21 inch, right?
24.
24 inch.
They got rid of the 21. They replaced it with the 24.
Yes, that is correct.
The other cool thing that I kind of like is they found, well, I kind of like and I kind of don't like this, but they brought Touch ID to the upgraded included keyboard, which is also the same color as the Mac, which is kind of cool. And Apple talks about how they had to encrypt that wireless channel so people can't like hack your Touch ID wirelessly, which is pretty cool. But I'm kind of sad you can't buy those colorful keyboards on their own. Even without Touch ID, I kind of just want one of the basic ones because my current keyboard is starting to fall apart.
It's coming eventually, I think. I'm sure. Like,
yeah, I think so
Can
too.
you buy the space gray one now?
Yeah, those came
you can
out.
buy the gray one now separately, right?
Yeah, but it's like $20 more, or at least it used to be, which was weird. But yeah,
interesting.
But yeah, it's weird. Even the new keyboards, there's a new design,
else?
And the keyboards they sell are still the old design, which is very un-Apple. Usually, if they move forward, they move forward, you know. But
that's true.
Yeah, that's it.
Was there anything else we wanted to talk about with the iMac? Like, that was probably one of the biggest, not me personally, but like the biggest, most surprising, I guess, for some people, announcement from the event. Or do we want to move on and talk about the iPad Pro?
I think
there are two other things I'd like.
You go, John. I'm just going to apologize to John Prosser. I just have to apologize to John Prosser. I don't know how many times I called him an idiot. I was like, those renders not happening. Why would you even make renders? If you're going to leak something, don't like mislead people with all these fake renders.
We made fun of him last week about it.
I know. That's why I'm here. I was wrong. I'm admitting it. Sorry, John. I hope your eyebrows grow back. Not you, John. John Prosser.
He got that one right. He was still wrong about the Apple event date in general, which cost him his eyebrows.
Yeah.
The only two other things I was going to say, it's neat to see Apple put some focus on upgrading the camera, speaker, microphone situation going on there. So that's really nice. I mean, a 1080p camera is kind of meh when you consider everything else about this, but it's better than what they had. And the mic thing is totally a page out of the Microsoft Surface playbook, because Microsoft always talks about how they have the two studio mics in their Surface devices. So Apple kind of just one-upped them there and said, yeah, we have 3. Suck it.
And they have like noise isolation now. Like they showed in the video that there was like kids screaming in the background as kids do. And the person was on a video call. I was like, you can't even hear the background. So I don't know if that's actually going to work out as well as they say. But if it does, I mean, it's a pretty cool situation to have built into your computer.
Yeah. I doubt it'll work that well. But the idea is, I think they use beamforming to kind of directionally point the microphones at the main source of audio to help reduce the background audio. So, you know, it'll probably help, but it probably won't be as good as like a nice microphone system and, you know, a quiet room.
Very true.
The quiet room is key.
Yes.
So
very, very important.
What's left? We have the iPad Pro, right?
Yeah.
Bennett, do you wanna outline the stuff with the iPad Pro? For me, this was like the most lackluster announcement, despite it being cool that the iPad Pro now features the same chip as all of Apple's other devices, for the most part, with the exception being the iPhone.
We got to see
and older iPads,
go,
obviously.
Go Mission Impossible on us. No weed jokes. There was no weed jokes on Apple's 420 event, but we did get this Mission Impossible skit.
John on Twitter pointed out to me that the only grass that we saw during the event was the grass at Apple Park, which I found very fascinating, because I've been there several times over the years, like since they opened it up to media for events and stuff like that, and it always looks super barren. There was like no landscaping, there was no grass, there was nothing there, which always seemed weird to me. But the grass has finally grown, and it looks like it's going to be like a wild sort of situation. They're not going to do a lot of maintenance, which is neat to see.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I'll stop talking about the grass at Apple Park.
But yeah, so the iPad Pro is coming out in the second half of May, and like you said, the main difference is it now has an M1 chip. So the iMac, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the iPad Pro now all have the exact same chipset, which, looking down the line, I think points to maybe an iPhone with an M chipset. And then all of Apple's things on the same like series of chipsets, what does that allow for, like app compatibility and things? But I won't get too far into that because that's in the future. But yeah, I think the other big updates would be the Liquid Retina Display XDR, which uses mini LEDs. So it has the the larger one has 2,500 dimming zones, and the smaller one I think has 576. So they're not the exact same, but so the larger one has a slightly better display.
So
It has the ability to get brighter, but they both have mini LEDs, which is a new form of display technology that should make them more like an OLED display.
to my understanding, the Liquid whatever Retina XDR marketing display stuff, that's only coming to the big boy, not to the little one.
That would maybe make sense why there were so many less dimming zones in the small one. Like you would think that they would be also in the
Yes.
thousands. So
I'm
that
like
makes sense.
I'm
Yeah, it only
99% sure that was like when
it
I was in
only
briefings yesterday about it, that was one of my big questions, was just to confirm that was the case, because I know there was some confusion on Twitter. And that's like an effort by Apple to try to differentiate the two devices in some way beyond just the display. Just the size of the display, right?
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, the smaller
Yeah,
one only goes to
and
600 nits too, and the other one goes to
Yeah,
1,600. I think.
yeah, I think I'm right then for sure.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense. We also got 5G. We've got 5G. We've got the Thunderbolt port on there with like, what is it, like 40 gigabyte per second transfer speed. So you can connect it to a Pro Display XDR and do like 6K work from your iPad and your Pro Display XDR if you're just like the richest Apple fan ever.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's just pretty cool. I guess it has the camera on the front now is 122 degree wide angle. So like if you put it up on your counter and like you walk over here, the camera like shifts to follow you like the Facebook portal does, or actually it's not back there anymore. The Amazon Echo Show 10, it can like follow you, which I think is actually a pretty smart feature. And I wouldn't be surprised if this comes to iPhones and will be huge on iPhones.
What did they call that? Center stage, I think.
Yeah, center stage.
yeah, something like
Center
that.
stage.
And then you can also get it in 8 or 16 gigabyte RAM configurations because it's an M1 logic board with that setup basically the same as the Macs. And it also can come up to 2 terabytes storage now, which is new. So it's becoming
And that's the first time
very
that
computerized, is all I'm going to say.
That's the first time that
Yeah.
Apple's ever talked about RAM in the context of an iPad, right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
it seems like it. They haven't really talked about it with any iOS or iPad OS devices, as far as I know, ever. And I think the simple explanation is probably the one that's correct in this situation, because it's a system on a chip. All the components, the CPU, GPU, neural engine, RAM, they're all on the same chip. So if Apple already offers the M1 in 8 gig and 16 gig configurations, and then they put that same chip in the iPad, it's going to offer those configurations because that's what's built into the chip, right? So I think that's really why they shared the RAM amount, because even if they didn't say it and they just said, oh, the iPad has an M1 chip, well, look at the M1 chips in the iMac and the MacBook. They're 8 gig and 16 gig configurations, so that's probably what's in the iPad too. So I think that's really where the RAM configuration part comes in. I don't think that Apple's trying to, really sell the iPad as a computer, because they've been doing that for years without telling us how much RAM is in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the weird thing about this is like last year's iPad Pro was baller. People were editing 4K videos on it anyway. So now you can like do multiple 4K videos. It's like, who are these people that need all this power on their iPad? I'd love to meet someone that's like an iPad power user. I wish I was, but yeah.
Who is connecting a 6K screen to their iPad? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I know. How much is the Pro Display XDR? Like $5,000. So you're spending like
It's something crazy.
$7 or $8,000 for this setup, and plus you've got to buy the Magic Keyboard because you're going to go all out. Which also now comes in white. If you're one of those people that wants a brighter look to your office, I guess. But yeah, it's I don't know.
So-
I love the iPad Pro. I love all the power, but I don't necessarily understand it.
The one thing that I wanted to mention about the white Magic Keyboard, like that seems like a crazy misstep to release a white keyboard. To me, that's going to get incredibly dirty incredibly quickly. Apple
then you
says
got to
that
replace
it
it with another one.
That's what they told me.
They just told us it
They
wouldn't
said
get
that
dirty.
it won't. Yeah, and they
What?
said that it's designed to be easily cleaned and that it won't get dirty and that it won't show scuffs and scratches and whatever in the way that I assume it will. I don't
If
know if I
it's
believe that.
if it's
I
designed to
don't
be
think
easily
so.
cleaned, then like why would they make it easy to clean if it's not going to get dirty?
Yeah.
Good
You
point.
know what
You're
I
reading
mean?
between the lines there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's
I don't know.
whatever. I don't see many people buying the white one either for that reason, to be honest.
hmm
Even
Bennett, I
these
get what you're
headphones.
saying about the iPad Pro not making a lot of sense because it's got all this power like the MacBooks, but it's not a MacBook, right? So I think that makes a lot more sense if the iPad is able to run Mac OS or something in the future. I doubt Apple would ever do that, but to me, this seems like them building towards something like that where you can run Mac apps
Mac apps,
or
yeah.
some sort of more productive operating
Well,
system
it's
on the
already the
iPad.
other way around, right? So you could see that happening at some point.
Yeah.
That's I think what we're hoping for, right? That has to. I think we talked about this when the M series chips came out last year. Yeah, it was last, definitely last year. When the M series chips came out last year, I
Yep.
think we talked about like this must mean that Apple is going to essentially at one day like just be sort of like bridging, iPad apps on or iPhone and iPad apps on Mac and Mac apps on iPad. It's just like a matter of how they're going to do it. But yeah, I guess like it should be capable now. So yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
hopefully.
There's like touchpad support. Like it's basically a computer that's just like not running a computer. It is a computer that's just not running like it always was, but like now it's even further. Like it's got computer chips in it, computer RAM. It's got the mouse, keyboard. Like craziness. I like how they were
Yeah,
like,
like literally at this point, if you were to buy the iPad Pro, it's you're buying a Mac that can't run Mac apps. That's what you're doing. That's what
yeah,
the iPad Pro is at this point.
hmm yeah. I like how when they were like showing it off,
The
they were like, journalists can use it for on the spot locations. Like who's going and using like an iPad as their camera? Nobody. They were like
I've
doing
seen it
quick
before at
hits. Did
Apple
you see it?
events, man.
Really, with an
It's a
iPad?
wacky world.
But like,
Yeah.
how much extra is an iPad tripod mount? It's so much bigger. Is it worth it? I don't know.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention about the event and what sort of relates to all of these devices is despite them being available to pre-order towards the end of April, there's not, for most of them anyways, there's not a specific release date. They all say that
True.
they'll ship towards the second half of May, which leads me to believe that a lot of those rumors surrounding stock shortages and like manufacturing, not problems, but shortages, are likely true. Because this is one of the first times, especially amid the pandemic, that I have seen Apple not give like a specific release date. Like it's kind of like a window. You'll get it by the end of May, sort of deal is what they're saying.
Get it when you get it, and you'll be happy.
So that I just wanted to mention that because it's not what we usually see from the company.
Yeah, that's fair. That is true.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because the whole chip shortage that's going on right now extends much further beyond just Apple or Qualcomm or like one company, right? Like it extends all the way to the foundries that are actually making and manufacturing the chips for these companies. So I'm not surprised to see that at all, and it's probably going to be an ongoing issue for a while.
I just want to say that
Cool.
we got our like stat roundup
yeah, go ahead.
today, and the second worst story on our site all of March was a story I wrote about Qualcomm saying they're going to have a chip shortage. It was like 13 people or something read it. So that hurt.
Nobody
people,
cares.
What? But like chip shortages, it's affecting us all. I was shook. 13 people. What is that? It's like the worst story I've ever written in my life, and it was such like a hard news story. Wow.
I was talking. I was like looking at those stats, and sometimes this is inside MobileSyrup baseball here, but I think sometimes when we get those bottom story reports, if I edit the URL after a story's been published, the original URL somehow finds its way into the report, and maybe it's only been up for like 30 seconds and 13 people clicked on it, but then I change it and then it shows up as a different story.
Because like I was
that
like,
could be a factor.
Did I put this up at like 11:50 at the end of March? Like, this seems like something more than 13 people would read. So I don't know. 100%. That was crazy. But yeah, chip shortage.
There's other stories like that I wrote myself that were in that list that I was like, there's no way that only like 100 people read that. Like there's absolutely no way. I like woke up on a Saturday morning, saw that the URL was bad, and I edited it or something. But listeners don't care about our traffic stats and all this fun stuff.
Traffic report, MobileSyrup traffic report. Let me do a helicopter sound, and you
I
pretend
think
you're
that's a
like
good place.
flying over the studio. Does that sound like a helicopter?
That's
Yeah,
a
it
pretty
did actually,
impressive
really.
helicopter sound. Oh my
I'll
goodness.
have to get you a soundboard.
Oh man, I've been wanting one for so long for my Discord
Right.
chats. I want one for when every time I just enter, it just like claps like when Dolly Parton comes on scene in Hannah Montana. Everyone's just like a live studio audience. There's
Okay,
like software
I
ways to
think
do it, but it's
let's
fun
wrap
with
it up, and let's talk about what we've been playing this week. So me, I like all I've been playing is Outriders. That's it. I don't have anything more productive to say about the game. I'm approaching the end game. I still really like it. It is still full of problems. I mostly play it with my brother, and I've run into like several instances where he just can't join my game or it crashes. I think some of that's related to him playing on an Xbox One and me playing on a Series X, but the game is compelling enough for me to kind of push through that. I actually did a story about it on MobileSyrup, not super long, 1,000 words, just like my opinion of Outriders and why I think it kind of does looter shooters right and corrects some of the wrongs that we've seen in Destiny and other looter shooters. And yeah, that's it. That's all I've been playing.
It definitely seems like a bit of a sleeper hit this year.
Yeah.
There's like an
I think
undercurrent of Outriders talk, I find.
I think if they're able to iron out some of these technical issues, it could grow into something pretty unique and have the ability to like stick around for a couple months, because like gamers notoriously like jump from game to game, especially people that play looter shooters. Well, sort of. I guess Destiny is like a full-time job now at this point, so
Yeah.
that's not really true.
Get
But
those
yeah,
armor
Bennett, what have you
shards.
been playing?
Honestly, not much. Alex actually got me Super Mario 3D World for my birthday, which was March 31st. And we started playing that. So I haven't been gaming too much, but getting onto that a little bit. And this is something that I'm actually not playing, but one of my friends is, and I've been kind of watching him, and it's called like Project Zomboid. And it's like this open world, kind of like isometric. It looks very old school, but seems like very kind of complex. You're basically like doing runs through this. Like,
Did that come
world.
out?
I don't know.
Is that
I don't know the
available now?
backstory of it. He's playing it on PC, so maybe. But it looks pretty cool. It's like very old school. It kind of almost looks like Habbo Hotel graphics, but it's like zombies. And he's like loving it. It's really cool.
I know.
He like dies often, lots of runs going through trying to get his stuff. To me, if this is probably
I know
not going
exactly
to do it
the
justice.
game you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool. If I had to describe it, it'd be like Zombie U, that Wii U zombie game combined with Habbo Hotel. It's kind of what it looks like to me, but not. It doesn't seem like as populated the world.
I was super hyped about that game like a decade ago, and it was supposed to come out. It was like one of those early Kickstarter success stories when Kickstarter first became a thing, and something happened where the studio lost the whole game. Like they didn't have a backup of it. Like they lost the whole thing entirely. I don't know if there was like a fire or someone broke in and stole something. I think someone broke into their office and stole all of their computers. And it was like one of the first big Kickstarter like controversies where they just like ghosted. So I don't know anything about the situation and I don't remember the details, but something like that happened. So I'll have to I'm going to look into this right after the podcast. That's fascinating to hear that it like actually came out. I think I even backed the Kickstarter back then.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it looks cool. If I get some more free time, I might pick it up and play with him. It looks pretty fun. What about you, John?
Nice. John, what have you been playing?
So with EA Play coming to, EA Play, that's what it's called now. For some reason, I thought it might have been EA Access, but EA Play came to Xbox Game Pass on PC finally, and I was like, great. I'm going to play Jedi Fallen Order because I've wanted to try it out and didn't really feel like buying it. But I was able to get it through Game Pass, and it was actually sick. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing it. So yeah, that's just been a blast. And then I've also started playing Battlefield 4, which is like a really old, well, not really old, but like an old Battlefield game, older Battlefield game.
10 years? It's got to be. It came out with Xbox One, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it came out in
2014?
2013, I think.
2013,
2014.
Something like that.
2020.
Yeah, I skipped that one because
You were too busy
at
getting
the
hyped for
time.
Hardline.
I played Battlefield 3 and I loved it. And then when Battlefield 4 came out, it had a lot of issues at launch. And at the time, I hadn't gotten one of the new consoles because I was like, well, I need a laptop for school. So I bought a laptop instead, and it wasn't powerful enough to run Battlefield 4. So I never got the game. But now that with EA Access or EA Play, I have access to all the DLC. I've owned Battlefield 4 for several years now. But I have a computer. I bought it because I have a computer that can run it finally. And I've owned the game for a while, but I never had any of the DLC. So finding servers to actually play was a pain. So now that I have the DLC through Xbox Game Pass, I've been playing it a bunch and really enjoying it because the last few Battlefield games haven't been modern games. They've all been like based in World War I and World War II, and they were still good, but it wasn't quite the same experience as what I enjoyed about Battlefield 3. So it's just been fun playing Battlefield 4 and kind of waiting for the Battlefield 6 hype to start up because that's due out, I think, later this year.
Nice.
So
I didn't know you got the
Battlefield
DLC
6
with
Battle Royale.
EA Access or EA Play. That's cool because with xCloud you don't, and I hate that. I want to play the Forza Lego add-on, but I don't want to buy it.
yeah. Well, I think it depends on the game, and with Battlefield 4, because it's an older game, like
That's
EA
true.
had included all their premium DLC with EA Access, or I keep calling it Access. It's EA Play. They included all of that with their subscription thing anyway. So with Game Pass, you just get access to their subscription. So whatever was in their subscription, you get.
Cool.
Which I think is the main reason why.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, there definitely some value there, and if you have Game Pass, try out EA Play because you get it for free as part of Game Pass, and it's pretty sick.
Yeah, Fallen Order
If
is
you
a
like
sweet
EA
game.
games. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded it and then I never played it.
No, I got
Sitting on my hard
to. How far did you get, John? I got to the boss battle at the top. Of the
I finished the
tree.
game. I beat it.
Oh wow. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I never finished it, but I think
I
two-thirds,
blasted
maybe?
through that game.
Nice. Yeah, it's fun. It's so good looking too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to measure progress because it's not a super linear game.
Right.
Because you can jump back and forth between the different worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Kashyyyk a few times, and it wasn't until the last time I went that I actually went to the top of the tree and did that boss fight.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It's cool.
So I think that's a good place to wrap up the podcast. That's it. Thanks for listening to the SyrupCast. You can find me on Twitter at Patrick_Rourke, and of course on MobileSyrup.com. I should have some cool Apple event related product stuff that I can't talk about on the site later this week. We'll see. Should work out like that. Bennett, where can people find you? And do you have any recent stories that you've published that you want to highlight?
You can find me pretty much anywhere at the Bradfad. And I don't know, I put up a Cadillac Lyric thing this morning. It's like a $70,000 electric car that's coming out in 2022 and looks like a man with a mustache. So if you're interested in that, check it out. That's all I got for now.
Man with a mustache.
It does though, doesn't it?
And John, where can people find you? Yeah, it does. No, it does. You're right.
Yeah.
It definitely does. You can find me on Twitter at John_Lamont. That's JON_LAMONT. And of course on the website MobileSyrup.com, where I'm writing all kinds of stuff, such as I just put up the LG Gram 2021 laptop review. Sweet laptop. And working on some other laptop reviews. Surface Laptop 4 is on the way. Get ready for that. It's exciting.
Ooh,
Nice.
Looking forward to
I
it.
should say, I have a review of these headphones written, and I just need to edit it, and then I'll hand it off to Pat. So maybe that'll go up this week or next. But these are pretty cool, although the Bluetooth on them, meh. But when you plug them in to make them wired, it's like surprisingly sweet. So not a great
Really?
selling feature for wireless headphones.
Interesting.
But yeah, like when I literally couldn't understand. I was like, what is wrong with these? They're supposed to be so good. I'm not going to get too much into it. But then I finally plugged them in, and it was like a whole new experience. I had to like go back and redo a bunch of stuff in the review. So yeah, fun times.
Looking forward to reading it. Yeah, and as always, you can find all of our content on MobileSyrup.com, and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MobileSyrup. Thanks for listening and watching.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.